It's time now to review of what's making headlines around the world in the newspaper. So let's bring a rise analyst, Constance Ikwoku. Good morning.
Good morning, Adesua, Charles, and Yolanda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Constance.
How is everybody?
Doing well.
Okay.
It's a full house today.
It's good to do, it's a full house. So welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year again, thank you.
It's late in the day, but let's look at the papers today. To look at what the headlines are telling us, we have Dr. Iyobosa Owogaren. He is the editor, Nation's Capital, of This Day newspaper. And we'll begin with this day. Archbishop Kaigama, Tinubu needs to match message of hope with actions. In this story, Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama is speaking out. He said President Bola Tinubu's promises to boost food production and cut inflation from 34.6% to 15% is heartwarming. However, he would like to see him transform those promises to concrete actions. Dr. Iyobosa, Archbishop, is not the only one hoping that the renewed hope agenda of the president is not just political talk or, slogans from the campaigns, is he?
Absolutely, you are right. What the respected Archbishop is saying is not new. Many Nigerians are saying that, and that especially when during the New Year broadcast, he acknowledged the fact that last year was a very challenging one for most Nigerians, and that this year, the federal government will do everything to make sure they reduce the burden of many Nigerians. And he did promise that he will reduce the inflation rate from 34.6% to 15%. For many economists, I think they said that was very ambitious. But let's see how he work that out. But like what the Archbishop is saying, it's not just about rhetorics. We are no longer campaigning. We are no longer campaigning. It's time for the federal government or the government at all levels to get serious with work and ensure that they meet the demands of Nigeria. Because whether we like it or not, the purpose of government is to better the life of people. And once you are unable to do that, then there's a problem. And I hope that what the president said is not just mere rhetorics. I'm sure he will mass his words with action so that at the end of the day, Nigerians are better for it.
To this day again, there's a story there on how Abacha rebuffed efforts by Carter, others to secure my freedom. Here, former President Olusegun Obasanjo is reminiscing about how the late U.S. President Jimmy Carter stuck out his neck for him when he was incarcerated by late military ruler General Sani Abacha. In spite of course by global leaders, Abacha refused to let Obasanjo go, but continued pressure eventually led to his release from detention. Charles, this report says Obasanjo was very emotional when he was giving tribute to Carter. I mean, we've seen a checkered history in this country.
Absolutely. When Obasanjo was Nigeria's military head of state, if I remember correctly, that was when Jimmy Carter visited Nigeria. It was such a very historic event, and later on in life, both Carter and Obasanjo belonged to a global think tank made up of past presidents of various countries, and that actually cemented a close relationship built over the years. So when Obasanjo was incarcerated by the Abacha administration, I think in connection with a coup attempt, a coup plot actually, whether it was a phantom coup or whether it was real, but Obasanjo was incarcerated nonetheless, and Jimmy Carter was one of those statesmen who actually intervened directly to get him off the hook, and also through other means put pressure on the Abacha administration to secure Obasanjo's freedom. Well, fortunately, somewhere along the line, Abacha died, and Obasanjo and the others regained their freedom consequently. And, it's it's to be expected that Obasanjo would be emotional about President Carter, the late President Carter, because they've had that relationship over the years, working for one another's good.
This one, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Bayero heads to Supreme Court over emirship tussle. Earlier, a court of appeal had ruled in his favor, the favor of Assistant Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, in the emirate dispute. Now, the 15th Emir, Aminu Bayero, has rejected that ruling, even while the appeal court had ruled that the Federal High Court does not have the authority to handle issues related to chieftaincy. I mean, for a lot of people in Kano, it is unfortunate that the emirship has degenerated into a fog of war between two men from the royal family. At the same time, maybe a Supreme Court case will settle this. What do you think?
Definitely, perhaps a Supreme Court case will settle this, but I also think it is sort of settled law that the federal courts do not have jurisdiction over these matters because, again, as you said, this emirship matter is a state matter, and so the Federal High Court should never have gotten involved, which is what the Court of Appeal said. I think it's a very good judgment we saw there, but ultimately it will go to the Supreme Court, which is our final court, technically, in Nigeria, and so hopefully that would give us a clear decision on whether or not a federal government or a federal court can be wading in to these state matters, because this is something that's very personal for people, you know, when it comes to their royal fathers and their leaders, and so that is always something that should possibly be left in a state and a local control, which is what our law says, which is what our constitution says anyways.
Yeah, well said. We'll also stay with the Guardian. Diaspora Group endorses Seyi Tinubu as next governor of Lagos State. The group called the Future Platform USA says Seyi is a competent candidate for 2027. They highlighted what they called his exemplary leadership in professionalism and community service. Dr. Yubosa, let's bring you in here. What started like a rumor is now crystallizing to an ambition. The president's son, Seyi Tinubu, hasn't officially, made a public statement on this, but, are we doing dynasty in Lagos State or what? Although anybody is free to run.
Well, I think this group of people are just political jesters who are looking for ways to also earn a living from politicians. Like somebody said, I think it's a joke. Having Seyi Tinubu as governor of Lagos State will be a huge joke. I don't see that happening. But in politics, people will say, oh, don't rule out everything. Anything can happen in politics. But I think the Seyi Tinubu's ambitions to become governor of Lagos State will be a huge joke, and I don't see it materializing. Because Lagos is not just an ordinary state. It's a very complex state. And before you can be seen to be the governor of Lagos State, there are certain qualities that you must possess as a leader. And Tinubu is an upstart. Where has he worked in his life that will qualify him to be governor of Lagos State? So I don't see that happen. The father was a governor for 8 years in that state. And the father is currently the president of Nigeria. So are we having, is Lagos State a conquered territories where the family will continue to dictate who becomes the governor or members of House of Reps or Senate or State House of Assembly? I don't think that will happen in Lagos State, not the Lagos State that I know very well.
Everybody was chuckling. Charles Adesua briefly.
See, well, I think
what you have to say about this.
I think somebody is planting ideas into somebody's head. Either the group in the United States is planting ideas into Seyi's head, or probably Seyi himself had planted that idea into their heads and actually motivated them to come out with it. But I mean, I go with Dr. Owujaren on this. I mean, it's funny. It's laughable. Sorry to say.
I mean, I'm laughing, but I also kind of don't find it funny at all. But I do think that, I can't speak to Seyi Tinubu's qualifications when it comes to public service because I don't know what they are. But one thing I do know is that Lagos...
It would be good to know that first.
Yeah, but I do think that, when we talk about someone being a governor of Lagos State, we must think that Lagos State is one of the largest economies in Africa on its own. And when we think about the qualifications required to lead
experience is key.
As an executive.
Right, let's move on to Daily Trust. Minister Jega commends Zulum over ranches for herders. Borno State government launched the first livestock development ranch settlement as part of measures to provide solution to the clashes between herdsmen and farmers. That conflict has raged on for many years and has only wrought destruction. Dr. Yubosa, this was long overdue, and that's what many states should be doing, especially from that part of the country, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is good for a governor to be commended when he's doing the right thing. But I think that is the responsibility of every governor, to make life better for people. And knowing fully well that the livestock business is a very good business for the people of Zanfara State, the governor is investing in that business. And like somebody said yesterday, like Jaga said, it's going to boost the agriculture of the state. It's going to boost the economy, and it will also generate more revenue for the state. More so, I'm sure it will go a long way in reducing these farmer headers clashes that we find in virtually every state or some part or many parts of the country. It's a good initiative, and every government, whether at the subnational or local government level, have a responsibility to support agribusiness in the state. It's very strategic for employment, it's very strategic for development, and it's also very strategic for food security. And I think it's something that every state should copy. Zulu, the governor of Borno State, has been doing a very good job. For him, what matters is the welfare of the people, and since he became the governor of Borno State, he's been doing that. And I hope other governors from that part of the country will support that what Zulu is doing, or will also copy what he's doing. Because once the state government is very active, once the local government is very active, it will reduce the burden of the federal government. We cannot be calling the federal government to do everything for state or local government. The state also have a responsibility to the people that elected them into power. I think by and large, I think Zulu is doing a very good job in Borno State.
One more story in the local papers before we move to the international. The Punch, again, 16 civilians killed as NAF bombs Zanfara bandits. On the front page of Daily Trust, we also have that it says 15 people. But the governor's spokesman says those killed are local vigilantes, and the Nigerian Air Force says they are bandits. Available information says the vigilantes had mobilized to go confront the bandits attempting to rustle animals. Unfortunately, as they reached there, an aircraft appeared and dropped a bomb on them. I mean, Charles and Adesua, this is not the first time civilians are collateral damage. Perhaps if there was coordination between them, when not to approach certain areas where they are dropping bombs.
This actually happened in December last year when, there was this controversy. The Air Force said it actually bombed Lakurawa terrorists, and the community where the bomb was dropped claimed that those who were killed were the residents, their own members. So there was that misunderstanding, that disconnect, and it's happening again this time around. So I think there should be some form of coordination. I mean, whichever way. The Air Force should be able to notify. But then, of course, I mean, if they say they'll notify the communities ahead, they might also be alerting the bandits. So, it's all about military strategy. And I think that there should be some form of coordination between the local security authorities and, the armed forces.
Right.
Charles, don't forget that there was a major airstrike in 2023 that left many civilians dead as well. And I can't help but remember that as well, together with the one that you just mentioned from, was it December or from November?
December, actually.
Where civilians were killed. And along with this report, I'm also seeing some headlines that are saying that it's civilians and not actually armed terrorist groups. So it leaves one wondering if this is doing more harm than good.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, this will go on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, particularly when we talk about innocent people dying or collateral, we also must think about the fact that you have local vigilantes due to a lack of security services in some of these areas. And so you can't blame the security services completely because they are dealing with limited resources.
That's right.
That how can they tell the difference between an armed local vigilante group and an armed bandit or terrorist group? And so it shows the death of our security situation in the country, because we have civilians arming themselves to protect their communities and their families, and we also have banditry, we have terrorism, and so I do think that our security situation in the country is very complex, but it's definitely something that needs to be worked on to prevent a further loss of innocent lives.
Well said, complicated situation. Let's move on to the international headlines. Daily Graphic from Ghana. National Cathedral probe According to President Mahama, the idea is to investigate any misuse of public funds in the execution of the project. We have another story on that front page. President reduces number of ministries. Labour Federation welcomes realignment. President John Mahama of Ghana reduced the ministries from 30 to 23 in order to cut government spending. This new move is a cost-cutting strategy under the austerity policy of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. So that was President Mahama. The austerity measures, Nigerians remember austerity measures from the IMF as very terrible, experiences and how it affected government funding of public services. But Yolanda, at the same time, if there is waste, there is need to cut that waste.
Absolutely, and I like this move. I think it's very powerful and strategic because it also puts pressure when two ministries or more have to come together to collaborate. They have to, re-look at things like budget and how to make the best out of lesser resources than they would have had if they were working independently.
Yeah, definitely. Citizen newspaper, ANC alliance here to stay. Despite bickering in the tripartite alliance, it will remain strong as the intra-party fights between the ANC and SACP are simply a seasonal drama, says a political analyst. Yolanda, I don't know if you agree with this, that it's just seasonal drama that this alliance will hold. Only time can tell.
Absolutely, only time can tell. But for now, ANC is just trying to reaffirm their durability. And, there's been a lot of internal disagreements with the ANC emphasizing its alliance strength and the role in the country's governance. So let's see what time tells.
Yeah. Also, let's move on to The Guardian. We're talking about here stronger winds expected to fan LA fires. The fires rage on. 16 people have been killed according to this report, and 12,300 homes and businesses destroyed in California. I mean, the dry Santa Ana winds, as it's called, is expected to keep the fire going. Dr. Wogiaran, an extremely dangerous situation as they race to contain the outbreak.
Yeah, very sad. This morning I was trying to look at the latest there. We've just been told that about 24 persons have been killed and almost about 23,000 hectares of land is affected by the wildfire, which is very devastating in the history of the United States of America. The fact that as with the kind of sophisticated equipment and we have in the United States, the fact that they've not been able to contain the fire is a sign that it's a very serious something. So many houses have been destroyed, so many properties have been destroyed, and I don't know how they are going to recover from that. But like I said, it's very devastating.
And guys, yeah, you can chip in here. I mean, it shows how blessed we are in this part of the world.
Absolutely.
It's a natural disaster.
Definitely. I was going to say that I was just messaging my classmate this morning who lost her childhood home, her current home, their library. And she was just saying the whole neighborhood has gone down. Her school has gone down, her elementary school, her high school. And I can't imagine the emotional toll and the devastation beyond just the material things lost. I can't imagine going to your hometown and the whole place is just ash and dust. I think it's very frightening. And these winds that are still coming, the danger that is still growing is actually what scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the wind speeds, I find that really, really amazing. 70 miles per hour wind speeds are fanning at those fires.
That is strong.
I mean, it's really, really deadly. And then I think the nature of the houses, built in those posh areas, lots of it is wood, and then of course,
yeah, majority of
American
houses
homes
in the US
are
are
built
with
with
wood.
wood.
Yes, but I think people also, because Americans often build with wood because of earthquakes and tornadoes. Because if you build with concrete in an earthquake region like California, where they do also get earthquakes, that becomes more dangerous because concrete falling on you is worse than wood falling on you.
That's true.
All right, let's look at the last paper this morning, The Times. Labour's net zero push hands power to Beijing. Here, the Labour Party is said to be courting Chinese investment for its renewable energy revolution. However, the party is being warned that this could leave the UK vulnerable to Beijing. The talks between the UK and China include investments in manufacturing and assembly plants in the United Kingdom. Dr. Owogare, it seems like the fear of China is the beginning of wisdom in the West. Some countries are really threatened by China's emerging economic and political power.
So many countries are afraid of China. Anytime a country is trying to, open a business discussion to conversation with China, there's always this fear among the citizens. It's not just the UK, even in Nigeria here. But whether we like it or not, China has become a very strong global player in the economic, in the manufacturing sector, in all sectors, telecommunications, science, and what have you. So it's not just about being afraid of China taking over the entire world as the strongest economy in the world. They're also afraid of the security implications of those do business with China, and I don't know why. Like I said, I was in China recently, but they are moving forward in spite of the fear by some countries, especially the United States of America. From the look of things, it appears that the China or the Chinese, or this China has left the entire world behind, and they are moving very fast in terms of technology and in other sectors. They are moving very fast.
Almost out of time. It seems like China is unstoppable.
Maybe the factors, probably the terms and conditions China offers in terms of international trade are probably very generous, and so it's attractive, particularly to countries that are not as economically buoyant, especially here in Africa.
And prepared.
Yeah, but I also think the West knows what they did when they had the technological advancement over China, and so they're afraid that China will do the same to them.
Exactly. All right, that's all we have for the paper review this morning. Dr. Owogare, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Constance Ikwoku. That's all the time we have for you here on Daybreak. I am Adesua Giwal-Sage.
I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I am Yolanda Robert. Please stay tuned on Arise. The morning show is next. Goodbye.